So I recently put out a YouTube short about the cognitive distortions, or also known as common cognitive errors. And I mentioned three of those in the most common types, but in this video, I'd like to talk more about it and slightly more in detail. Um, there are actually 10 in total, in fact, more common biases that we have. But I'm going to talk about 10 of them, which are very common in each individual and in psychology. Uh, so, what are cognitive errors or cognitive distortions? So, our brain is a machine which tries to look for shortcuts when it's thinking. Uh, so in that way, every time our brain has to put in some work, it'll try to look for some shortcuts, usually based on memories or others' experiences or our own experiences. As simple as that. And as this shortcut may not always work, sometimes it does, sometimes it does not. And when it does not, it has a major impact. When it does seem to get our work done, but not in the most efficient manner. So, why or how does these matter? So, it's quite simple. What do you think influences how you feel and how you behave? So, if you are someone who has a constant negative thoughts going on, there's a chance you will also feel a lot of negative emotions altogether and may behave in a not so uh, positive and an optimistic way. So, how you think and how you perceive things does influence your emotions and your behavior. So, if you feel sad, depressed, lonely, empty inside, so there's a chance that your thoughts could be the one, uh, could be the onset, could be the reason why you must be doing it, or it could be the one that it is putting the oil in the fire that already exists. So, without wasting much time, let's start into it. Let's start with one of my favorite cognitive distortions, and it's called jumping to conclusions. So, jumping to conclusion is when, without any reasoning, you tend to, as literal as the name says, you jump to conclusions. So, for example, once you go out on a trip and then you see someone hitting a girl, then you would assume that this guy always hit girls, and no matter what, he's beating his wife, which means he's a bad person. That's jumping to conclusion. You never know. Maybe the girl hit the guy first and the guy uh, beat the girl back. Let's not get into rating, right? It's probably a bad example, but yeah. The second one is overgeneralization. So you tend to generalize in terms of everything. So if A happens, which means A is the only thing that happens. Uh, but in fact, specifications are where the truth lies. So in this case, for example, if one girl breaks my heart, which means all the girl on this planet will break my heart. That's overgeneralization. Maybe one girl break my, maybe two girls break my heart, but that does not mean that all the girls in the world will break my heart. The third type of cognitive distortion is all or nothing thinking. It's also known as black and white thinking, where an individual thinks in extremes. So, for example, either someone is good or it's bad. So, if you are someone who's a criminal, then you are bad. There is no chance that you can ever do something good. Or if you are a godlike saint, then you can never do anything bad. So that's all or nothing thinking, thinking in extremes. But usually, things exist in the gray area. That's where the truth is. The fourth type of cognitive distortion is magical thinking. It's where assuming, it's where your belief makes you act in a different way than you actually are. So, for example, you will think like, "Oh, I'm a good person. Nothing bad will happen to me," but that's not true. Bad things can happen to a good person, and good things can happen to a bad person. The fifth common cognitive error is should or must statements. So these are quite common, and we hear people saying that a lot. We, in fact, say ourselves a lot. So I should go to the gym. I should be there for my friend. I should eat healthy. I must get good grades. I must be liked by others. So these put a lot of toll on our mind and our body, and these are not good statements to have. You can rather use a substitute statements, and try to avoid as much as possible should and must statements. The sixth type of cognitive error is disqualifying the positives. Uh, it may sound complicated, but it's not. In this situation is where one individual always look for the negative and avoids the positives. So, for example, you must have seen someone who got 10 compliments on Instagram for a good picture or a good fashion, but one individual says that they are not good enough. That is bad. And they would focus on the negative comment and not on the positive comment. So unable to look at the brighter side, unable to see that, oh, the positive is also there. This is a common cognitive error which leads to distortion in the thinking and then affects the body and the mind. The seventh type of cognitive error is minimizing or magnifying. It's where you either think that a problem is gigantic and could not be solved, or something is way too small. So, for example, if you make an error, you are in a group, and by mistake you made an error in the PPT, and you will be like, "Oh my God, what have I done? How can I make this mistake? I'm so terrible, I'm so bad at it." You are magnifying your mistake. And on the other side, if your teammate makes a member, your your teammate makes an error, you'll be like, "Oh, it's all right. There's nothing wrong about it." You'll just try to ignore it or be like, or to avoid it. That's minimizing a problem. So it could be that the problem that your teammate created would actually have much more impact in a negative way than your own mistake. But because of your thinking fallacy, you're unable to look at it. The eighth type of cognitive distortion is personalization. It's when one individual makes themselves responsible for other people. So, for example, if my mom is not happy, it's my fault and it's my responsibility to make her happy. In reality, it's not. You don't have control over others' life, so you can't blame yourself. If you make an error, that's completely fine, but it's not your responsibility to work things out and to make sure that others' lives run better. The ninth kind of fallacy or cognitive distortion is mind reading. Is when you try to read others' minds. Oh, this person does not like me because I look this certain way. That person did not tell you, nor did anyone else. Why are you assuming that? That's mind reading of other people. That's also a major and very common cognitive distortion. And the tenth and the last type of cognitive distortion is fortune telling. It's when you try to predict the future by yourself. And we all know that it's nearly impossible to predict the future. Even the godlies, saints can't do it. They can try. But how certainly? You never know. It's never going to be 100% sure. So, for example, you are gonna go for an event and you think that oh, it's going to be bad because I'm going to meet all these relatives of mine who I don't like. So it's going to be a terrible, terrible event. But in reality, it could be a good event, and you may have fun. But before engaging into the event altogether, you are thinking that it's not going to work, and it's not going to be work out in your favor. So if you're wondering, what do I do with this information, Hanel? Um, and it's impossible to be completely free of these distortions. But what's important is that once you know that these exist in our minds, next time that you come across this kind of a situation, you can reflect back on it and be like, oh, I just thought that it's a cognitive error. Let me think in a different way. And fun fact, and something fun, a fun activity that you can do is you can look for cognitive distortion in other people. That's always fun, right? As Indians, usually we like to pick on other people, and to pick on others' fault and not on ours. Uh, so you can maybe start by identifying cognitive distortion of others and then reflect back upon it and become a better thinker yourself. Um, if you guys think that I'm missing out on something, please comment down and let me know. I'll see you guys for the next video.